Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Horsepower Obsessed. Today, we're going to talk about a new patent filed by GM for some active aero components on the C8 mid-engine Corvette. Make sure to stick around until the very end of the video. I have a special announcement at the end that I'd like to have you all hear. And please let me know your feedback. I'd love to hear what you think about it as well. Alright guys, so with the C8 mid-engine Corvette coming, it seems like there is a new piece of information or a leaked piece of information pretty much every day. Usually I find the leaks on the mid-engine Corvette forum.com, Corvette blogger, or in this case, some of them actually came from the motor1.com website. Ultimately, what we're looking at here is a couple different patents and a couple new renderings that really specifically show the interior being rendered or the car with its doors open being rendered. Now, the renderings by themselves aren't really a crazy radical departure from some of the things we've already seen, but it is interesting to see the car with its actual doors open, or in some cases you can actually see the rendering with the door open and the actual interior in there. Now, the interior shots were obviously legit. They were leaked shots of the actual interior. This is not a rendering. The interior is actually what it will look like on the car, assuming they don't change anything from the date of the leak until the day the car is actually released. Now, with that said, there have been some other people talking on the Corvette forum about the steering wheel specifically. Zerv02, again, his name comes up from time to time on the channel here with Corvette C8 news. He specifically said that the interior he saw showed a much different steering wheel, and that the one that we saw in that leak was at least a year old. Basically implying that GM had changed the design of the steering wheel, but that particular leak, that change had not been reflected yet. Now, again, Zerv02 has been wrong with some of the information he's let come out, and he's been right, or partially right, with some of it that has come out. As always, any of these rumors or leaks, you want to take them with a grain of salt. So I provide the information that I have found. You guys can do what you want with it. It's not necessarily 100% true, but it's not necessarily wrong either. With that said, there are the people who could potentially have an inside track on knowledge or leaks or anything like that. That can happen. Absolutely 100% is a possibility. So whenever I hear certain information that sounds like it could be legit, I like to, of course, take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time, try to start fitting it into other pieces of the car where it makes sense. But anyway, I digress. Let's get into the new patent that GM recently filed for active aero on this car. There have been a few different patents filed for active aero showing possibly an active front splitter, an active spoiler in the rear, and now we have one showing active side skirts of some kind. This patent was actually filed in August of 2017, and the publication date for the patent is actually listed as February 14th. Now again, this information is coming from the mid-engine Corvette forum.com, and I will link all of the websites down below where I've found this information if any of you want to check it out for any additional info. Now, this patent is actually pretty interesting if you look at the design of it. It doesn't tell you a whole lot about the functionality or how it will work, but there are obviously active flaps on the side of the car that you can see on the left opening and on the right showing it's closed. Now, it also shows on the right the air being just basically straight by the car, whereas on the left, opening that up causes turbulent air, which would then give the car additional cornering or braking ability. Obviously, there's other cars out there that use active aero in a very similar way. One that comes to mind is the Huracan Performante that actually has active flaps in the front as well as the rear of the car that open and close to help with cornering and braking ability as well. Now, as with any of the patents filed for the C8, they're all pictured on the C7 Corvette, and this is obviously to not give away what the C8 is going to look like. For the patent, they only really need to patent the idea or the way it would operate, not necessarily how it would look on the car. I get this question come up in the comments a lot where any of the patents being filed are shown on a C7 and they wonder why this option never made its way to a C7. This is why. GM basically just shows it on a C7 because we all know what that already looks like, And none of us really know exactly what the C8 is going to look like yet, and they don't want to give it away in any of these patents that they know will eventually find their way onto the internet. On the actual patent document, it specifically states that this would provide a system and a method for improving turning and braking of an automotive vehicle via body acting forces. So just like I said earlier, these panels or flaps that are going to open and close are literally going to provide additional handling and additional braking capability. Of course, this isn't the first patent we've seen from GM for active aero. There was one discovered in September of 2018, which was obviously filed at least a year prior to that as well. That was the one that actually showed an active front splitter, an active spoiler, and even active grille on the actual hood. So while active aero is not something new for the car, it is interesting to see how many of the components on the car are actually going to be or could be active aero. As of right now, I see an active front splitter, an active rear spoiler, an active rear diffuser, an active hood vent of some kind, and now we're seeing an active side skirts or side flap of some kind. So the car is going to have all kinds of active aero, at least as an option. Not necessarily on every single model, but the fact that these patents have been filed up to 2 years ago show me that they are going to be putting some of this active aero on this car for certain models. One of the models is likely to have all of it. And if it has all of this as an option, it's going to be a beastly car. I mean, at this point, with this much active aero, the car can literally take corners, brake, and even accelerate better. So if you have a car that looks great with a real big rear spoiler, that spoiler could actually sink down into the car once it hits a certain mile per hour to achieve a high-end mile per hour. So basically, any spoiler on a car creates drag at high mile per hour. So with the active aero, that can actually bring that spoiler back down into the body of the car to lessen that drag once you hit a certain speed. That way you can still maintain a high top speed, but at lower speeds have all of the downforce of that rear spoiler as well. There are a massive amount of advantages to having active aero on a car. So this is excellent to see. I'm glad GM's going this way and really making this thing as good as they possibly can. But like I said earlier, guys, all of the links that I've used for this information will be in the description down below. So go over there, check it out. Let me know what you think about this active aero stuff. Now, like I said earlier, there's been a bunch of patents released by GM that have been leaked online. Some of them I've already discussed in previous videos, so I'm not going to get real in detail here, but so far we know GM has patented an oil separator assembly similar to a catch can for the C8 engine. They have at least 3 different patents out for active aero. They have a patent out for the mid-engine Corvette hatch cover in the rear, which will provide better cooling for the engine. They have also patented things like clutch-by-wire patents for a possible manual in this car, power doors for the car, and many more. Basically, at this point, GM has patented a lot of things, and if all of these actual patents end up on this car, the thing is going to be a beast. But in the power door patent, it clearly shows the door opening up just normally, just opening and swinging out. There's been a couple different spy shots of the car showing the same thing, doors opening out. Nothing special, no Lambo doors, gull wing, nothing like that. The doors are just opening out. Now, like I've said 100 times, it could be GM trying to blind us from the truth, or this literally could just be how the doors are going to open. So with the spy shots showing the doors opening normal and the patent showing it opening normal, Chaz Cron over at the midenginecorvetteforum.com has done a rendering of the car with, of course, the doors just opening normally. It's interesting to see because obviously we haven't seen the car with the doors open like this, all uncovered and everything, and it's pretty interesting. It's nice looking. He actually even made a rendering of the car with the door open, showing the actual interior. Now, like I said earlier, the car part that you can see on the outside is a rendering of the C8 by Chaz Cron, but the interior there is an actual spy shot of what we've seen from the interior. Like I said earlier, the interior might not be exactly what we're going to get at the car's final release because Zerv02 said that the steering wheel isn't the same, and God knows what else they've actually changed since this first spy shot was actually taken. which Zerv02 says they could have been taken as early 2018, so almost a year ago. If that's the case, GM absolutely could have changed some of the styling of the interior, possibly changed a lot of it. So a lot of the things that people saw in there that they didn't necessarily like, it could all be different whenever this car finally releases. Even though the interior picture is from an actual model, does not mean that that's what it's going to look like when we get it. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. So if you liked what you saw, give me a big thumbs up. Go ahead and shoot your comments and questions down below in the comments section. I'd love to hear what you think about these patents being filed, what you think about some of these new renderings, the spider style convertible, the doors being open normally. Let me know what you think down below. I always like hearing from you guys in the comment section, especially about the C8 stuff, because I'm so excited about this car and I love to just talk about it. But anyway, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'd love to have you as part of the Horsepower Obsessed community. And as always, guys, I'll catch you in the next upload. And lastly, guys, I wanted to talk about channel merch. I finally got some merchandise for the channel. I'm going to have just regular vinyls that will come in red or black for now. I'm going to have more colors of all this stuff ordered in the future, but for right now, solid red or solid black for this particular style vinyl logo. I'm also going to have this style. These will come in obviously red and black as well. And then finally, I'm going to have the key tags. I have just gotten these all in from Moto Loot. These are black and white, HPO on the front, and on the back, Horsepower Obsessed. Now, same with these over here. These ones are obviously red, HPO on the front, Horsepower Obsessed on the back. I do have a couple more colors of these coming. I'm going to get black background with red writing as well, and maybe one or two with an American flag and my logo on the front. So if you guys like those, I don't have my website up yet, but once I do, they'll be for sale. If you're interested in buying any of this stuff before my website's ready to go ahead and shoot me an email at horse.power.obsessed@gmail.com, and you can purchase them before the website is up. But this is what it will look like, obviously, on your keychain. They're very well made products. I think they look amazing. I love it on my keychain already. So go ahead and shoot me an email, guys, if you want any of this stuff. I've had a couple people ask me about merch, and I finally got some. So if you're interested, shoot me an email, but my website will be going live here shortly that you can order it right from there as well.